Hi, everyone, and welcome to the LGBT Consortium. My name is Kim Hunt, and I'm Executive Director of Affinity Community Services. And Affinity is a social justice organization that works with and on behalf of Black LGBTQ communities, queer youth, and allies. We are very intentionally located on the south side of Chicago, and our work centers around health and wellness, civic engagement, and leadership development. And we are here on the fourth Friday of every month. I want to remind folks that this is a call-in show, and the number is 312-738-1060. So tonight we have a lot of ground to cover, and before we get started and before I introduce my guests, I want to congratulate our phone guy, Miles Brady. Miles just became Mr. Black Trans International. Yeah, way to go, Miles. So Miles will be reigning for a whole year, and I'm sure you'll see lots of pictures of him. And if you check out our weekly download, you will see a picture of Miles and his award. So, on to this show. As I promised last month, we're going to do a kind of a legislative roundup. We're nearing the end of the spring session of the Illinois General Assembly. And today I have my good buddy with me, Michael O'Connor. And Michael is a public policy guru and a former legislative staffer to Representative Connie Howard. And so he has been around the block many times on this public policy stuff. So Mike, let me also say that Mike was instrumental in working with Affinity as we were working on the marriage equality legislation and educating constituents, and he did just a fantastic job of getting us around Springfield and introducing us to everyone. So thank you again for that, Mike.
Well, thank you, and I want to thank Affinity for letting me have this opportunity to educate the public about legislative matters and, well, for lack of a better term, give the dirt.
I love that. Give the dirt.
Let's deal. If we can start,
let's do it.
Let's start with House Bill. First, I'd like to congratulate State Representative Kelly for HB 5569. Even though most of the Illinois General Affairs Assembly did not vote in favor of the bill. They should have, because if you look up this bill, I always tell people that instead of listening to, not listening far as to us, but if you have a computer, go to ilgov.com so you can look up your own, so you can read for yourself what these legislators are doing in Springfield. So we have a number of issues. We're not, when you hear relevant legislation, people think that the LGBTQ agenda is just marriage equality, but quite frankly, regardless of your sexual orientation, if the light bill increases, it affects you.
That's right.
So let's start with the conversion therapy is a bill that prohibits mental health for us those professionals from doing what I consider crazy stuff in terms of trying to convert people from straight to gay, from gay to straight, and taking your far as money in the process. They try to do guidelines, and somehow it failed in the same Illinois General Assembly that voted for marriage equality. So I'd like to give a good shout out for Kelly, State Representative Kelly, for trying that.
And I think we should point out, because I had this discussion with folks who were here on reproductive justice. We hear a lot about things like this happening in other parts of the country, in terms of there being these big efforts to, in this case, change people from gay to straight, and you hear about this in relation to churches and rural areas and all that. That's the stereotypical piece.
Look,
but it happens here too.
Right, a lot of those people get paid. A lot of those right-wing ministers, including some African American ministers, get grants from the right wing in order to do that. So they're getting paid to deal with some therapy, or what purports to be therapy, that has no scientific basis to it, and just craziness, and it's at the expense of people who would like to live a well-being life.
Right.
Now let's go to something else. Now, right now, everybody's talking about the budget. People who have common sense should be talking about the budget.
Yes.
Here in the state of Illinois, if the budget is not passed, if there is not a preservance of the tax,
the income tax.
yeah, the income tax thing, y'all need to know. 21,000 seniors will not receive help when they need from in-home caretakers. All that's gone. 140,000 people with mental illness would be denied medication and therapy.
Yeah.
25,000 people with developmental disabilities would lose community-based services. Now, we've already seen how the city has cut mental health thing, as far as mental health therapy and as far as their whole services, think that's going to be compounded with state having problem. Now this is the as far as the Lutheran Social Service Organization of Illinois. They're the largest statewide provider of social services. 96,000 people are going to be affected by this. Then to show you just how crazy a lot of this stuff is in terms of public policy, did you know 30,000 Illinoisans who thought that they voted the last election day had their ballots tossed out?
When I saw that, I was
they had their
stunned.
ballots tossed out because they either moved or, they either were too lazy to re-register.
Or didn't know they had to.
Or didn't know. Where is our own accountability as voters? I often heard people say we get the government that we deserve because, we do what we do. So politicians do what they want to do.
That's true.
Then I'm looking at the fact that Mike Madigan just proposed to keep the 2011 income tax hike and to send property owners a $500 property tax refund, which is good. The only problem is it'll be offset by the typical taxpayer who pays $1,100 a year. So somebody needs to be asking Mike Madigan what they going to do with the other $600 per taxpayer. Then, Kim, we've seen some real controversial stuff down there. We really have, and I'm sure the audience has. But we got legislators who are pushing, literally, again for the gambling plan. That's why Quinn is so unpopular. He's been holding up the show, all right? And they want another casino. So with what little money we got, we don't have to play the numbers now down there downtown if Rom gets his way. Then, on top of all of that, and I know my time is running, but we got
you're good.
The unions are really going through a whole bunch of changes right now. They have one voice coalition, and I'm so proud of Karen Lewis. Here in the city,
teachers
I am
union,
so proud of her.
Yeah.
She letting them have it, and she's doing
holding
it
it down.
right. She holding it down. They filed a coalition of unions, the AFL-CIO, the state, county, and municipal, as far as employees, the service employees, filed a lawsuit against the state based on the fact that there is a dropping of benefits. These benefits these people are already paid for. So I always tell people, look, black folks. The black middle class is mostly government workers.
Yeah.
We aren't in corporate America in not only big numbers,
Not
but
in vast
making a
numbers,
whole
that's
lot of
right.
money. So this adversely affects African Americans and Latino persons who are public sector employees. They didn't wait till y'all got old before they're going to take half your pension. So that's in court.
And those public sector employees are predominantly women as well.
Yes. So now, on top of all of that craziness, we also got
There's
the corruption. Right. You got Derek Smith, poor man. I feel sorry for the guy. He got caught taking a $7,000 bribe, allegedly. So don't be calling Affinity saying that they're doing anything wrong. This is Michael O'Connor, who has alleged this, basically based on what I read in a lot of different places.
Right.
They want him to postpone his trial that was coming up until after the vote. Right. Well, the judge said, no, you're doing the perk walk.
Just the other day.
Right. Then you got Pat Quinn and the IDOT, the IDOT for us political clout hires.
And that's the Illinois Department of Transportation.
Yes, the Illinois Department of Transportation. And just to name a few. You got Catherine, her last name is spelled Vehovic, who's the daughter of the former Sangamon County Democratic Party chairman. She making $39,000 a year in the government. You got Doris Bartoloni, who is listed as the Franklin County Democratic Committee. She got her salary. She making $49,000. I mean, you got former Alderman John Rice. This guy is making $84,000. This is crazy. And then you got Bill Helm, who used to be the deputy supervisor under somebody who I have respect for, Todd Stroger. He getting paid. Everybody getting paid except for the taxpayers.
So what that report pointed out is that there are political hires, as I think we all know, happening in a lot of government agencies, and IDOT was one of the agencies that was revealed to hire quite a few folks who had been involved in campaigns, relatives, and other folks. And
and then Shackman just got through recently standing up there basically saying, hey, we're going to make sure that things happen as far as the right way. But the problem is you, as the audience, voters in Illinois, need to be proactive independently and hold people accountable. Because if you don't, we're going to have the same craziness. For example, you really want to see some craziness? This is the city. Ed Burke, name ring a bell? Alderman Ed Burke, whose family, let me just say this. Chicago runs, it's the biggest public school system in Illinois. And they buy more milk for low-income students than anywhere else in the state. Well, a group, according to the Better Government Association, a family that was connected, that gave Ed Burke $1 million, got $162 million from the Board of Education here in the city. $162 million. It's clearly a clout-heavy family reaping $162 million because, some can be said that there is a direct correlation as far as between Ed Burke getting $1 million. I don't know for sure, but I'm just saying. Then you got on the national level.
And let me point out that Mike is pulling this stuff from public data.
Public records.
You should explain to folks how they can get access to this information, too.
All they have to do, basically, is to go to read more than start reading the paper from the front and not the sports section first, okay?
Or you can start reading, there, but keep reading.
Right. Start reading the front of the newspaper and not the horoscope first. When you're on, the red line, blue line, purple line, I'm not saying, but I am saying, because all of this is public record. This is public record. And if you don't have time, find some of them young folks with, what do they call those things? Those smartphones.
Look at you. You sound like an old fogey.
Yeah, I am. You see this gray. And you'll be able to ask them to go to ilgov.gov or go to the Better Government Association's website. The internet is a wonderful thing.
Isn't it, though?
It really is, because it gives the information what you need to get from an independent source and a number of sources. So when you pick up the Sun-Times, read it from the front. Stop reading the sports first. I'm so tired of seeing that. It keeps us blatantly, publicly, far as politically, far as illiterate. It does.
There's someone who has a saying that says, "Be dangerously informed."
Yes.
And that's what we're trying to help people realize that they need to be as we look beyond marriage.
Yes.
And we've always looked beyond marriage. That's been one of many issues to work on. But these issues that Mike is bringing up and this legislation is more intersectional. It hits all of us. It's not a single issue type of thing. These are all issues and legislation that impact us in so many ways. And when you talk about racial minorities and gender and economic class, those factors are disproportionately represented when it comes to issues like this.
Right. You know what? Just as an example, my last thing on state, because I can go on and on. State Representative Monique Davis. She got a bill that's going to subcontract that's going to take the power from the sheriff's department in terms of evictions. They want to subcontract it to off-duty cops. Now, I know everybody got to make a dollar, but last time I checked, cops had enough to do in the city of Chicago. Why would she do this? I mean, most of those individuals. She has a large population of working class, a large population of people in her district that have been foreclosed on. So now, instead of the sheriff's office, who has social workers who help to deal with that, she wants to give it to, hired guns to simply put out people. And if you look at Mark Brown's column in the Sun-Times, last week, you'll see that. This is the same person who, when I was at Chicago State, somehow a bronze 9-foot, a 9-foot bronze statue came up missing in the library at Chicago State and wound up in her district office. So this is the same. When you talk about landlord issues, this is the same person who the Chicago Public Schools owned the building where she had the district office and she hadn't paid rent and I don't know how long. So my thing is, what's good for the goose is good for the gander.
Always.
We need to be really aware of what's going on in public policy. Look at what's happening to us on the federal level. What's the guy's name as far as the House Speaker? John Boehner, or whatever his name is. Looks like he drunk all the time. This guy...
And well tanned.
Yeah. This guy rejected the immigration bill. The Republicans have totally rejected that bill. So,
after saying that they were going to spend some time on that, right? They know that they need votes from
it's crazy. It's
certain
crazy.
Populations.
And what they do is they try to say, what gets me is that they always talk about our brown brothers. The Latino population is somehow the only population that's immigrating. We got Africans. We got all kind of people trying to get here. So why not give them a second chance like we got? I don't blame them for trying to get ahead. I blame us for not organizing like we need to in order to do that. Not just African Americans, but women, all the groups that have been literally locked out.
And that's actually a piece of work that Affinity has been working on too. We're part of the LGBTQ Immigrant Rights Coalition, which has several organizations at the table who work on immigration issues. We also work very closely with the United African Organization. And in fact, we've been on each other's shows.
Right.
And we have some research that we'll be putting out probably next month. There's one is what we call a brown paper instead of a white paper, because it's a policy paper on the impact of immigration law on binational same-sex couples of color in particular, because there's racial issues. Absolutely.
Yes.
And then there's research that we've done over the last year where we're looking at the attitudes and beliefs of Black Americans and immigrants towards each other, and that report will be coming out next month.
Well, you know what, I look forward to seeing that report, because hopefully, I believe that people that know better do better. So the more people know, the better they will do. I'm looking at the fact that the Senate, as far as Republicans on a national basis, I mean, not only have they been messed up in terms of their lack of understanding in terms of immigration, they refuse to deal with the minimum wage bill on a national level.
Yes.
I mean, how do you adequately in this economy tell people on a national level as a major speaker for your party that $7.25 an hour is okay?
And we know that people are working 2 or 3 jobs.
I'm one of them. Trying to make it.
Maintain just a minimum life. They're not asking for anything luxurious. They're going to work every day, and it's
it's crazy.
Not even get ahead, just maintain.
Right, it's crazy. So I hope, I know that the new Democrat, I know that nationally, the president was here, and I know that there are their bases. They're trying to get people to the poll to fight all this stuff. I'm going to be frank with you. I am not a fan. I mean, as far as I'm concerned, in terms of the gubernatorial thing, we're dealing with the pick of the litter on both sides. But the fact of the matter is that I'm not hearing what I need to hear in terms of platforms as it concerns how are we going to bring people, get more jobs. And I don't mean, we had jobs. I always
Yeah.
like what Reverend Jackson used to say. We had jobs when we were slaves. But I ain't trying to go back to that, and I'm sure the audience isn't either. So, 725 is not enough. 825 is not enough. That's why 2,000 people showed up yesterday.
Even the 10 that they're proposing at the federal level isn't enough, but
Right.
it's so much better than what folks are currently working with.
You know
right?
what? I also look at the fact that most of these people who are running these corporations are making strategy.
$10 an hour.
Yeah, research has shown that they're making 1,000 times more than the people
Than
who
their
make it possible
staff.
for them
That's right.
to do what they're doing. So clearly, there's
That's
an
right.
economic issue. There's an economic disparity, regardless of your sexual orientation, that is
Right.
adversely affecting the masses of people.
That's
And we
right.
really need to deal with that. We need to deal with
That's
that
right.
here in the state of Illinois.
And I want to remind people that this is a call-in show, and you can call 312-738-1060. And we did have a caller who left a message, and the caller wanted us to know that politicians are being given lots and property all over the city.
Yes,
I think part of
look.
this is related to that there is a program for you can buy a lot for $1. Certain lots.
Thank you. You can
You
buy
have
a
to-
lot for $1.
You have to live on the block, supposedly.
And who you know and how you know,
Yeah,
unfortunately.
I was trying to look into that for Affinity, but that
Right,
didn't
will
work.
determine what's what. It's really
Yeah.
unfortunate. You know what? They really, really need to look at, I think the Inspector General's office needs to begin the process of monitoring. We need federal monitoring so that the patronage that exists with getting these lots will be taken care of, because clearly this 10 for 10 program
Yeah.
is going to be, we have a long history of patronage. Not that I would cast an aspersion on all of the aldermen, but
Right.
let's just say that
He's
more
in
of them have
Chicago.
gone to jail in Chicago than anywhere in the country. So,
Yeah.
I'm not feeling that. I mean, just like I'm not feeling how Daley did the parking lot, and I'm sure a lot of people are having problems
the
with
parking
that.
and
Yeah, the parking meters,
street parking and all
that
that.
whole deal, Daley, all of them. And Emil, excuse me, as far as the mayor is cleaning up the mess, but the mayor is also dealing with a number of different things in his own way that I don't consider to be a reformist. The alderman, I want to give a shout out to Tom Tunney for standing up. Even though I like Laura Rickett, she's a friend of mine, that. I mean, I like her, but the fact of the matter, her brother, the Rickett's not right in terms of what they're doing. Tom Tunney basically said yesterday that the plan that they're doing, that all of a sudden changed the
Let
rules.
people know what doing where.
Oh, in the 44th Ward. So I'm giving a
Wrigleyville.
shout. Yeah, Wrigleyville. Tom Tunney is speaking out. Quite frankly, I'll be glad to see more African American and Latino aldermen speak up and speak out. And if they can't do the press, hire somebody or find someone who can help them get their thoughts out about what's actually happening. Because so often we always see aldermen from the north side somewhat speaking up in the progressive coalition, but I know there are a number of, for those progressive aldermen who are African American, who are Latino, who don't get that type of visibility.
Right.
So I want to give
But they're
Tom
just
Tunney
as progressive or
yeah,
more.
they're just progressive. So they need to speak up a little bit more so that their constituents will be educated about the issues
that's key.
before the problem
That's key.
and not after the problem.
And a shout out to Rita Mayfield too, because she was sponsoring the Ban the Box legislation to take off the question, have you been convicted of a
Exactly.
felony?
Her and LaFont and LaShawn Ford.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's unfortunate that he's having his issues, and so is Derek Smith. But you have to know these people's record. When you begin to know their record, I mean their legislative record,
There you go.
you will realize that, all of them aren't the same. You can't
Right.
stereotype all of them. But you have to be educated about what that means. And the only way to be educated about what that means is to deal with continuously watching the shows like this one, the Affinity show. This is done this community service, and I want to thank you, and I want to thank the board of, as far as your board and Lisa Pickens and all of them for basically making sure that we have some type of free education about public policy, and that the stereotype that LGBT people only deal with marriage is not dealt with, because we're like everybody else. When the rent's too high, we have a problem. When politicians are corrupt, it affects us too.
Yeah. So I don't know where the time went, but I want to remind folks that they can find out more about Affinity by checking out our website. You can give us a call. We tweet at Affinity CS, and you can also find us on Facebook. You have to search for Affinity Community Services to find us there. I cannot believe we covered a lot of ground.
Yeah.
So we're going to bring you back, of course.
Okay.
But thank you, everybody, for watching. Next month is Pride Month.
Yes.
It's a month of partying in the LGBT community.
Well, some of the LGBT community, because we
I
also
watch
do
the party.
Right. Because I'd like to see the African American GBLT groups really get together in terms of having one Pride Fest that does testing for women, that does testing for black men.
We're going to work on that.
Hopefully that'll happen. It's not just about a party.
Amen.
I know the Rocks is not.
And then next month we're also going to be talking about marriage, because for the rest of the state, marriage starts June 1st.
Okay.
So we'll talk about that issue, and folks can call in with their questions. So thank you so much for watching today, and everybody have a great holiday, and we'll see you next month.
Yeah.